Oh,
Can't.
we do not hear her.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
No audio.
Just
Yeah, I
just
was actually gonna
mind it.
I was gonna mention this before, but you know who wrote a great book on pirate myths? Bennerson Little here. You should go pick up his book.
Oh, sweet. Excellent. We will get into that. Absolutely. Casey, can you give us a test real quick? Still not working. Mm-mm.
I see lips
You
moving,
might have to
but
drop.
no sound.
Yeah, you might have to drop out and come back in and see if that fixes it, Casey. So
Yeah, and
while we try to get that straightened out, the next one that I have written down is walking the plank. Did pirates really make people walk off the end of a board into a shark-infested ocean?
Some Spanish and South American privateers who were basically pirates did in the early 19th century during the Spanish Wars of Liberation. Prior to that, I'm not sure there's a mention of it, not in regard to piracy in the late 18th century. It seems to have been picked up in the early 19th century by a British adventurer who wrote about the Spanish Wars of Independence. And he described it in detail, literally putting a plank out and pushing these people overboard. These were very brutal wars. And it seems like every pirate author after that kind of picked it up and ran with it. You don't need to put on a plank out to throw people overboard. People have been thrown overboard for thousands of years. But these people seem to sort of make a fetish out of it, I guess.
It makes it. I think it makes it more eerie.
Keel hauling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, there we go.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Okay, good. Sorry.
Now you're back.
Hi. Is the sound
we were just
okay?
talking
Like
about-
no longer robot?
No, you're fine now.
Sounds fine.
Okay.
You're fine now.
Right.
We were talking about walking off the plank and how that
Okay.
originated. And after, we'll let Lorence add in on if he has anything, and then we'll go to you, and you can throw out your list of stereotypes. So, Lorence, anything you want to add in on that?
I think the only thing I would add in on that, and I think I may have actually gotten this from Bennerson's book, then you can tell me if there's been some new research on this, that sometimes they would do it as like a test for a captain. Like they would blindfold you, get you drunk, and then you would have to walk on the board. And if you didn't fall off, great. Or maybe if it was just for the crew, not for the captain. But I'm not sure.
Yeah, there's a reference. I think it's a 19th century reference, and it's called "Walking the Plank." Basically, it's essentially a sobriety test, but they took its name, "Walking the Plank," from the idea of actually walking a plank overboard. But essentially, I'm not sure. It would be interesting to know if they actually used it as a test for sobriety for a watchstander. Okay, I guess if you could walk the straight line, you were sober enough. I'm speculating here, sober enough to actually stand watch. But if you couldn't,
Yeah.
probably could get busted.
I am
You're
not
showing
built
up drunk on
to be a
watch.
pirate. I'm figuring that out now. I would never last out to sea. Not a chance. Casey, do you want to?
And just
Sure.
a quick hop in, if we need it, because tomorrow is Talk Like a Pirate Day, so I brought 2 books that we might need for this, or if you guys want me to pull something up here. I have E.T. Fox's Pirates in Their Own Words, and it's just a collection of documents pretty much. And then I have something that's kind of more fun. Not all of it is necessarily true. It's just more fun. The Pirate Primer, Mastering the Language of... I can't talk right now. Mastering the Language of Swashbucklers and Rogues by George... I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Choundis? No, I don't know. But that
Sounds
was just
good.
a bit more fun.
That's as good a guess as mine.
What is the primer about?
It's basically just like a dictionary for pirate language, and it gives you like these... it gives you like pronunciations too. Like I can pull one up. Let's see, under commands, belay that, and it's supposed to be pronounced belay thart. and it means stop that talk, shut up, be quiet. And this is a reference. I don't know if this is real or fake, because this guy uses some fictional things to make this, but he also took from real sources as well. It looks like it's there's a reference to it in Treasure Island, and then Blackbeard's ghost. That also sounds fake. So just taking a.
Well, that's maritime terminology. It's used. You even hear that term in modern Navy still at times, and one thing to remember is a lot of what's described to pirates is their language. It's actually not pirate language. It's maritime language. I've had people come to me and say keel hauling is a pirate tradition. Pirates sit in keel haul. Dutch Navy and later the French and some of the other Scandinavian navies keel hauled. It's really a naval tradition. Same thing with a great deal of the language that you see. Pirates, what particularly distinguishes pirate language is probably an excess of foul language, even greater than the average sailor, which is a hell of a lot if you think about it, because very few sailors even today I've known that don't cuss a lot. I'm trying to, stifle mine right now with a toddler running around so that he doesn't pick it all up, because they pick up everything. So, and I haven't been in the Navy since '89.
I thought you were going to say you were trying to keep it down because of us, and I was going to introduce you to Casey again, because she is the master of.
Well, the funny thing was,
I come by it
I was
honestly.
I was out in L.A. working with Black Sails, the writer's room. One of the times I was out there, and one of the co-creators of the show was just very, very polite, and he would apologize when he cussed until somebody finally looked at this guy and said, this guy was a naval officer, Navy SEAL. He says, you can probably say anything you want in front of him. I was the one trying to be polite, but I just thought it strange that somebody was trying to, clean their language up in front of me. So I'm working hard on keeping mine clean right now, because it's that kid's picking everything up.
Everything.
So.
They repeat
everything.
Good luck.
Everything.
And they naturally, I have 2 grown daughters too, so I've been through this before, but forgot it all. But they understand. I know we're off the subject of piracy temporarily, but they also understand the situation of the circumstance. So if I just said, for example, shit, just casually, he'd probably ignore it, But if I drop something on my foot and just spew, he knows that's important and that's the proper time to say it. And he's going to repeat it in the proper circumstance. And then if you tell him not to repeat it, he's going to repeat it 12 times.
Yeah,
yep.
He'd be a good sailor.
That's a very good point. Why do we jump to like a cuss word? Why do we jump to that when either we get injured or we're pissed off? Like, what is it about the word that makes us temporarily feel better, or that's the choice word that we go to? That's a deep question.
I don't know. One of my books, I put about 500 words in a pirate book talking about their language, and I actually wrote a 500-word mini essay on the defense of cussing, and I don't even remember what I wrote now, but it's
a
keeps me sane,
thing.
I think. And
Yeah,
I've heard people say that it actually escalates. I've heard people say it escalates violence. That it has the opposite effect in me. If I can actually vent by cussing, I'm less likely to do anything stupid, I think.
Oh yeah, I agree, and it makes me feel so much better.
What gets me is the people that have a problem with cussing, because if you think about it, we as people, we create sounds with our our vocal cords, and they're just noises. Like, why do people put such an emphasis on damn, shit, or things like that? Like, why do they let a word influence them in such a way? I've never understood that. I've never understood why people deem some words to be a curse word and some words to be okay, and nobody can explain that why that's the case.
I think Vsauce actually has an amazing video on that called I think it's just called "Why Are Bad Words Bad," and he kind of breaks it down into classes, basically. Like the elite would use certain words, and then the peasants would use certain words, and some of the words that the peasants used became curse words. That's like the gist of it.
It's very interesting. where were we? We did get off on a tangent there. KC, your
Yes.
Stereotype.
Well, so I have a stereotype, but then I have a couple of other questions too, if y'all don't mind. So my stereotype is parlay. Like, was parlay really a thing, or is parlay a thing?
I may have read something about 19th century mountain men using it. Mostly I'd heard it show up in the Old West. I don't recall seeing it in any original journals or anything about even anybody at sea or pirates saying, "Hey, let's have a parley." I guess you might see it somewhere in the sense of, again, this is something that has crept right into our culture based on a film. Maybe Lorence has run across something that I haven't seen on that.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I haven't seen a single thing about it in any of the old stuff I've read, like any of the original documents, or in any any contemporary book. Haven't seen a single thing about parlay. Well, it doesn't mean it wasn't real, but
I'm pretty sure I probably saw it in Daniel Boone or Davy Crockett or something on TV growing up as a kid, or some movie about mountain men or something, or maybe in one of my uncle's old Louis L'Amour paperbacks or something. But
okay, so before he left, Godless Engineer had a couple of questions, so I'm gonna go ahead. Was there a code of ethics for pirates?
I'm sure both of us can answer this. Did you want to kick it off?
It doesn't matter. There was a code of ethics. First, anybody going to sea with a privateer piracy would basically have the ship's articles, which are essentially the articles, the laws governing behavior. But as Lorence knows well, late 17th, early 18th century, there was sort of a code of conduct among the brethren. It could be modified by individual crews. It wasn't absolute laws, but it was a fairly definitive set of expectations, I think.
Yeah, they were generally the same. The only real difference that I can think of is Cheng Yi Sao's code. It specifically had rules because usually the any of the pirate codes that and I'm just gonna say it that because it's more colloquial, pirate code. But I'm sorry if you hear the grandfather clock in the back. But usually they had rules against murdering your captives, but Cheng Yi Sao's rules also had a rule against raping the captives. So that's probably the most significant divergence I can think of. But as he said, they had different rules depending on who's your captain.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I suspect Cheng Yi Sao's rule against rape was primarily to keep discipline and more on the crew, because they were allowed to marry. Basically, if you wanted the woman, you had to marry her, which sounds nice, but it's forced marriages. I think it's legitimized rape basically, but it's still rape. But again, I think this was probably a disciplinary. Let's not let the crew go rampant. Let's actually try to get them to marry these women and bring them into the crew. And the women didn't have a whole lot of say in it, I don't think.
So were there typically women on pirate crews?
The Chinese, yes. The Chinese are probably the only ones I can think of that actually had a fairly systematic or large number of women aboard their crews. They basically were these pirate junks, literally hundreds and hundreds of them, were basically floating homes for families and everything. But other than that, like Lorence says, no, you can't. It's very, very rare. There are a few notable exceptions. During the Golden Age, there's basically Anne Bonny and Mary Read, and their deeds have actually been overemphasized. When their piracies were actually very small time. I would, however, say that based on a number of